I'm president of the Prescott Area Historical Society, and this afternoon we have met with Mr. Ken Whitaker, who lives just across the river from Prescott in the Hastings area, in what we would call the early Point Douglas area. We've asked Mr. Whitaker to visit with us for a few minutes about his family and the heritage of his family, since they have lived in this very spot since their grandfather came in 1847. And
right.
So your family has lived on this same land since 1847. Your grandfather, your father, and now you.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're, in our earlier comments, you said that you were registered as a Century Farm with the Minnesota Fairgrounds.
Yeah, the Fair Board and the St. Paul Pioneer Press, I think it was, started this program, the Century Farms.
And so if we went up to the fairgrounds to visit, we would find records and photos of your family farm?
I don't know about the photos. There was a bulletin board up there with all the farms, all the Century Farms listed. And ours, that's where we realized that ours was the oldest one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have... We want to establish our location a little bit more specifically now. So we're in Denmark Township of Washington County.
That's right.
On the Minnesota side of the river. And your family home was just down on the riverbank earlier. First, do you want to tell us how it is first established and kind of the history as it is moved up to the point where it is?
Well, I suppose there was... the river was the transportation means at that time. That's why they built by the river. And the railroad had not come through yet. When the railroad came through, the Burlington and the Milwaukee, they came between the house and the barn. And as I recall, there was a flight of steps to go up over the tracks from the house, and then another flight to go down to the barn.
Oh my!
And well, there was a lot of advantages in having that too, because sometimes the conductor on the passenger train, there were a lot of passenger trains in those days, the conductor would throw off the evening paper to us.
Oh.
Or if we went to Stillwater, we could walk down the line a little ways, and about a quarter of a mile, and catch the train that went to Stillwater, the Peanut, as we called it. And if the train crew was in good humor, when they came back from Stillwater, they'd stop by the house and let us off.
Well, talk about door-to-door service.
My mother was raised in Stillwater, and that's why we went to Stillwater occasionally.
Mm-hmm. So you, as a young boy, remember the railroads as a very major part of your early life, then? Well,
there was a lot of trains going. This Milwaukee ran 2 trains each way from Stillwater. And the Burlington, there was quite a number of passenger trains went by, and something like there is freight trains now, I suppose.
Yes. Well, the railroad runs right below the hill.
Yes.
As we are sitting here, that's to our our backs. Yes. And so your early settlement, your grandfather's early settlement was on the riverbank, and then we understand that your first home was his first home was a log.
The log cabin was right just across the highway here.
Oh, on this side of Highway 10. Mm-hmm.
No, on the other side, would be on the other side of Highway 10.
Yes.
And then they built down by the riverbank a much better home.
Okay, so the log home was just a claim shanty.
Just a claim shanty.
Okay, and then the real farmhouse was built on the banks of the river.
There was a house and a barn, and everything, all the farm crops had to be hauled down the hill to the barn.
Major difficulty, wasn't it?
Well, it it wasn't much of a road. There was it was a town road, I guess, but it really wasn't much of a road to travel.
But you would you carry these things in a wagon or a cart or something, or horse-drawn?
Yeah, we used wagons and buggies.
But you could drive horses into the area, so you could.
It was an awful good hill to slide on, as I remember.
Was it for winter?
It was a long route. It was a long walk back, of course.
And you're talking about the hill just below us here.
Yes. That came out near where the next driveway comes out.
Okay. Now, as you explained to me earlier, this is the farm home that was built then.
Yes.
And that's where you moved as a 9-year-old boy.
I was about 9 years old when we moved into that, and we've been in this one for 20 years. We sold that one. It's been sold several times, as a matter of fact.
Since you were quite a young boy when you were living in this house next door, can you tell us about a typical routine that you would have as a 9, 10, 11-year-old boy at that time? You went to school in Hastings, you said, of course.
Well, I went to the school in Point Douglas for the first 7 years. And then...
was it a one-room school?
A one-room schoolhouse.
Oh, marvelous. Down right near where the bridge is now, or...?
No, it's right off of County Road 21, where that goes up the hill. The school is still standing there, but it's not used as a school. It's a storage place now.
Well, that's interesting. I had not heard that the school building was visible.
But we were a poor district, and we had no school bus. I had to walk to school when I went to Hastings, or hitch a ride with somebody.
Oh, my.
If you are familiar with the spiral bridge that is there, why, it was a long walk over that bridge.
Oh, I should say.
But I made it every day anyway.
Winter and spring, as well as you could do that during the winter as well? Were you able to walk in the winter time?
Yes.
Oh, my. And so you went to school in Hastings, and as you walked back and forth getting to school without bus service, as you said, what were some of the chores and the kinds of things your family expected of you as a little boy?
Well, I suppose I had to help with the milking, and there was after we moved up here on top of the hill, we went into dairy cattle, and we shipped milk to St. Paul, and that was quite a chore every day, milking by hand before we got a milking machine. And then after the last few years that I was farming, I got rid of the cows. It was just too much work.
Surely.
And I raised a lot of seed corn for Jake's Seed Company.
Oh, did you? Oh, great. You had seed stations or seed plots then?
Yeah.
Test stations, I guess they call them. Yeah, test.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay. Is it because of the wind, maybe, huh? Yeah. Okay, I'll try to talk louder. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Then, as a young boy, you would help with the milking. Can you tell me if you were an only child, or did you have brothers and sisters?
No, I have a sister. I did have. She passed away several years ago.
So the two of you were able to have fun, though, playing as most children do. You slide in the...
Well, I guess so. I really don't remember too,
Is that right? Okay.
too well.
Uh-huh. And what kinds of crops did your father raise then?
Well, there was some hay and oats and corn. And then the later years I went into soybeans.
Oh, did you? Oh. Tell us about your experiences with the Ferry Crossing.
Well, in order to get to Hastings, we crossed on the head of the ferry at Point Douglas, and that was a man that lived right close to the ferry that ran it, and it was kind of an odd ferry. It had what they called current boards, and there was a cable across the river, and he could drop these boards on one side or the other, and it would kind of help push the ferry across the river. And then there was a long roadway up through the bottomlands. And of course, when the water was high, it was all flooded. And then the people came up from Prescott. We had to go around quite a ways. 4 or 5 miles farther, I suppose, to get to Hastings.
Oh, where would they cross?
Pardon?
You mean after they once crossed? Yes.
No.
Was the toll bridge? I believe I've heard that it was like 50 cents to bring your car over, and maybe a few cents to walk across the bridge. And
we could walk the railroad bridge.
Okay.
Did that quite often.
For nothing.
Yeah.
But if you did walk the toll bridge, you had to pay even as a pedestrian, didn't you? Do you remember?
Yes, the original bridge was a toll bridge, and in the wintertime there was a regular road across from the beach down here over to the Prescott beach, and people travel that way rather than pay toll.
And then crossing the ice, you mean?
Yes.
The frozen river.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier too that your grandfather would shop in Prescott at Furner's store.
Well, that's the only record I have of him buying anything at Furner's store.
And that, of course, is a famous name in Prescott. So we know that connection very well. But he would come and get his supplies there from time to time.
I don't know whether he did or not, or whether he just stocked up when he got married instead of housekeeping.
Okay. If you think about his early farm life, I guess we could assume that he would travel down to Point Douglas and over to Prescott once in a while with his grain, to sell his grain.
Oh yes, we sold a lot of grain. Did quite a bit of business with the elevator there in Prescott.
I would think so, either for the flour mill or just to sell the wheat outright.
I don't know whether there was a flour mill there or not.
Well, there was, yes.
There was.
But he may have sold it to a warehouse that would ship it out later.
Well, there was warehouses at Point Douglas too.
Oh, were there?
For the people who would haul grain in there, and then it'd be loaded onto barges. At one time, Point Douglas was ahead of navigation because the boats could not get to St. Paul.
Oh, okay. Well, Ethel Failing from Hastings has told us much about Point Douglas, and it was quite a thriving community at one time.
Oh, it really was. There was a post office and several stores and a hotel, a couple of sawmills.
Okay. Well, recently, too, I've read that there was a military road that ended here. Have you heard about that? The one that went from Point Douglas to Superior, Wisconsin?
There was 2 military roads.
Okay.
And there's a house down the road here about a half a mile right close to the road.
Okay.
And just this side of that, I think the military road took off and went up over the hill.
The one that's right up against the road here. This house is right on the road practically.
Yes.
Okay, so right before you come to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can still see places where the military road was. I own some of that land. Some that I have purchased from a neighbor, and you have to look real hard to find it, though.
Are you saying that you can see the actual ruts or the actual line of the wheel tracks?
The road that I own the land around is worn down into the ground quite a bit.
Okay.
And then there's a bridge across the gully.
You know, that military road is an extremely important link between this area and the Great Lakes, and so I think it would.
Yes, there was one road went to Superior.
Yes, that's.
And the other one went up to Newport.
Yes, yes.
There's up in the country a ways, there's a road that's still known as the military road.
Ah, I have seen that, yes. The name is on the marker. Do you have any major comments that you would like to make about your life and your farm before we conclude our interview here?
Well, not really. I guess there's nothing outstanding about it. I took part in the. I was town clerk for a while.
Oh, were you? Okay.
And on the county planning commission.
Well, that's important. You were making decisions that affected other people.
I was busy all the time.
Mm-hmm. And those things are volunteer positions, most of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. You do that on your extra time. Well, that's important to know that you served in those positions because you were making decisions for others.
And maybe if I'd devoted more time to my home and the work around home, I'd been better off.
Oh, no, we have to serve others too a little bit, I think.
No.
Well, we certainly thank you for your time today, and we'll be back. We'll talk again sometime. And appreciate your coming out on this lovely day for us.
Oh, I ordered that.
Okay, good.